So the leaves have fallen. The trees are being left bare. And this is a time where you can look at this as representing death or something cold. But when you really take a step back and think about what's actually happening, you'll start to see that what appears to be death and sadness and coldness is actually facilitating an abundance of new life. So the trees have shed their leaves, and as they fall, they become a shelter, habitat, and food for billions of living organisms. And over time, those leaves will become rich, fertile soil, which will in turn go back and feed the very trees that shed those leaves to begin with. So there is no loss in that process. It is actually, like I said, facilitating an abundance of new growth. And it takes time. It's a complex process, but it happens all on its own, over and over and over without fail. And that's how we end up with, a forest. Nobody's out here tilling the soil or fertilizing these trees. It takes care of itself. But in order for that to happen, the leaves have to be shed. And that same thought could be applied to us as humans. We spend a lot of time and energy and resources in living, in growing, and becoming who we are. But there comes times where it's necessary to shed some of that new growth. And that's an uncomfortable thing to do, because if you shed some of your leaves, then you're left exposed. You're left vulnerable to possibly some of the things that aren't serving you anymore. And that can be uncomfortable, knowing how much time and effort and energy was put into getting to that point. But if we are able to shed those leaves, that can in turn feed our new growth, just like the trees do. If the trees stopped shedding their leaves, or if someone came along and took all the leaves off the ground as soon as they fell every year, the trees would become stagnant. They'd stop growing, and they would eventually get sick and eventually die. But instead, they perpetuate. They produce new branches, new leaves, new seeds to be sown. And the same thing happens with us. We shed what doesn't serve us anymore, and allow that to feed us in our new growth, into becoming a better version of ourselves. So, just some perspective and food for thought as I'm walking through the forest on this cold, overcast day. And just wanted to share that with you guys and give you some perspective to think about. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Here's to new growth.